She never existed before. The women existed, but the mother, never. A mother is something absolutely new. Hey everyone, and welcome to the season 1 of my podcast Keep It Real by Kapila Mastri. I feel really excited to present before you the episode 2 of my podcast today that would share few experiences of the second stage of motherhood, which is my labor story. Being my first pregnancy, I had researched a lot on the list of hospitals, a lot on the best gynecologist in town, the do's and don'ts during pregnancy, different ways to induce labor naturally, pre and post natal instructions, required essentials for labor and post birth, etc. etc. So it's really important to have basic idea of what is gonna happen with you during labor, and all the gyan that I took was from my mother or my best friend Google. Talking about the preparations that I did for my prenatal term was keeping the backpack all set with basic essentials for me and my baby. That included the clothing, the toiletries, etc. I did not buy much of stuff before my baby's birth, but ensured to keep at least the basic necessities in place. The hospital that I chose for myself right from the start was Apollo Hospital CBD Belapur, where I consulted Dr. Minnie. She is an amazing gynecologist, trust me. I have been consulting her months before I conceived. That was just to ensure, and I wanted to be double sure that my body is prepared and ready to have that particular phase, to get into the phase of pregnancy and be able to give birth to a child. So, her suggestions and medical recommendations for me, my body, to build up a strong body really helped me throughout my pregnancy. So, as I had chosen a hospital in Navi Mumbai, I chose to stay with my in laws because it would have been comfortable and less travel for me, and my monthly follow ups would have become a little simpler. My mom stays a little far from Navi Mumbai, so I would visit her and stay back in between the course of time and come back before my follow up date. I did not have any issues in my travel, luckily, during my pregnancy. I even used to travel to my office via train, just that I used to prefer traveling in the coaches meant for specially challenged individuals. So these coaches used to allow women during their advanced stages of pregnancy, so that was a plus point for me. During the pregnancy entire course, I had read a lot of stories of labor and also googled a lot about the same, and that gave me a clear picture of different signs of labor, and I was mentally very much prepared for it. During the trimester, the last trimester, I had my last sonography wherein I felt super relaxed and happy to know that my baby was healthy enough. The heartbeat was really fine and normal, and the baby had taken the head down position already, which means the baby was ready to pop out soon. My due date was 17th of March 2020, and I had decided and was praying to God that I should deliver my baby in full term, which is at least post 38 weeks of pregnancy. This states that the child born in full term is comparatively healthier and there's less risk for both mom and child. So, about 2 weeks prior to my due date, I lost my mucus plug. That's the first indication that you're soon about to near your labor period. And post that day, I started to get lot of contractions, like lot of contractions, and these contractions are called the Braxton's Hicks of contractions. So this starts especially when you near your due date. So I discussed the same with my husband, and he immediately had adjusted to his office schedule according, so that accordingly, so that whenever I call him up that yes, this is time to go to the hospital, so he should be all set to take me there without any glitches. So, on the 7th of March 2020, I started to get severe contractions, but I somehow managed to stay with it throughout the day. However, at night, I couldn't actually bear the pain, and my husband decided to take me to the hospital as he did not want to risk on anything. It was my first pregnancy, so we both were really, really worried, and we immediately called the borderline number of hospital, and they guided me so well on the further steps. They immediately transferred my call to the emergency department, where I spoke to the on-call assistant of Dr. Mini, and she asked me to just come over to the emergency ward directly once I reach the hospital. As soon as we reached the hospital, I guess it was around 3 or 3:30 a.m., and the doctor I spoke to was aware and well prepared that I would come over, and she had kept things ready for me. So I was shifted to the maternity prep area where they kept me under observation and were keeping a track on my baby's heartbeat as well as my contractions at the same time. So I felt much better once I reached the hospital. Actually, my contractions were comparatively lesser at that point of time, or you can say it had vanished all of a sudden. Dr. Minnie, luckily, was available at that point of time in the hospital because she had, I guess, 2 or 3 deliveries lined up. So there were more patients around me. They were already nearing the stage of their labor. They were shouting, crying in pain, and looking at them, I was damn nervous. That made me really, really, really nervous. So she then came over, Dr. Mini came over and checked on me. She asked me a couple of questions: how were the contractions, how much time, and how many times during the day did I get contractions, for how much time. So I was told to track. I discussed with her about everything. She did a physical examination wherein I got to know that I was halfway dilated, which means halfway to labor. That was when she asked me if I would want to get admitted at the same time or want to go back home and maybe come over again once contractions would get a little more severe or say more regular. So that I could reduce, and minimize the hours of stay in the hospital. So I preferred going home and coming back rather staying at the hospital and waiting for the pain to get a little more severe. We came back home that night and rested for the rest of the time. Next day went really fine, and I kept continuing my daily activities to ensure that I get into labor naturally. So I did not want myself to just go really laid back, and I did not lie down a lot. I walked here and there. I was keeping myself active. Being at home, thinking, waiting for the right time was making me even more nervous and anxious and gave a lot of discomfort. And hence, my husband and my little sister decided to take me out for a long drive with all the safety and precautions. And we kept the hospital file and I guess the backpack ready at home so that if there is an emergency, we would just call up somebody at home so that they could come over with the required things. It was 9th of March that day around 8 p.m. in the evening, where everyone was busy celebrating Holika Dahan, and I was lying in the hospital bed with a monitoring belt over my big belly, painful contractions and uneasiness and a lot of discomfort. As the time passed, the pain would only get worse, and at one point of time, I gave up on myself and started to yell in pain. That pain is something which cannot be described in words. 2 hours passed, and it only kept getting severe and severe with time. I was 80% dilated by then, Doctors kept a regular check, but I was quite bothered due to the unbearable contractions. It was around 11:30 or I guess 12 midnight where I could hardly breathe as I was crying continuously and shouting in pain. But the only thing doctors could do was to wait for the right time. My husband, my sister, both of them kept me engaged with something or the other, tried hard but failed miserably in convincing me to wait and have patience. Then came the time where an anesthetist came over to speak to me about the epidural, which is a painless procedure for labor. At first, I said no, but then they saw me in pain that actually, tried and convinced me to go ahead with the epidural, the painless injection, to get into labor with a little, or you can say minimum pain comparatively to the natural one. So I was then guided thoroughly and injected the epidural on my lower backbone. Only then was the time where I got those 2 to 3 hours of less pain contractions, and all three of us, me, my husband, my sister, could take small naps during the night and rested for a while. But it is said that if you do not get pain, that is also bad, because when you're nearing labor, you don't have pain. Probably they get you into a C-section rather normal delivery. I did not want that. So, but as the dosage got lesser with time, I started to get that severe pain again. It was again starting to get worse for me. It was around 6:30 a.m. when I remember I started shouting out loud, and I was just repeating, "Please take me inside. Call Dr. Mini. Where is she? What time is she coming? I just can't bear the pain. Just take me inside the maternity lab or operation theater, whatever you call it. Just take me there." So I remembered all the gods, chanted all the mantras I knew. Pain reminded me of all my family members, but I missed one person the most. That was my mom. Uh, Finally, doctors came in and checked, and yes, I was fully dilated, like 100% set for labor. They started the preparation, took me to the room, and stopped. So that's where I took a pause. I looked at my husband, and he immediately asked the doctor where he should be waiting, and guess what she said? She said he could come over with me if he is willing to. Oh my god. So that was the best thing which happened to me by far, where I got to know that my husband could accompany me in labor room. So that is what we both wanted. uh, since I got to know that I was pregnant, I always used to tell him, I want you to be along with me. I'm not sure if these people would allow or not, but then we were really happy that they did. So we both were all dressed up as per the requirements of the operation theater, or for the labor room, you can say. And the next stage of happiness was seeing my doctor, Dr. Mini, enter the labor room. A lot of heart push at the right time, following the right posture, right strength, calm mindset, patience, and self confidence, helped me throughout my labor. The icing on the cake was, of course, my strength standing right next to me, helping me throughout and motivating me like never before. That was my husband. I just looked into his eyes, and he just silently smiled and said, "Go for it, baby, you can do it." That's it, like, that's what I needed. There, after almost half an hour, 45 minutes of my um, pushes and hard work, crying, everything, there arrived my little bundle of happiness. Doctor just put the baby on my tummy and seemed to be so happy looking at the cute little one that I had to ask Doctor, is it a girl or boy? And she smiled and said, "Oh, Kapila, sorry, I just missed out on saying the baby is super cute, and it's a baby girl." And look, just listening to that thing, like it's a girl, I was like, oh my god, I so wanted to have a baby girl, and my dream come true moment was that particular moment, which I will never ever forget. So it was 10th of March 2020, 8 a.m. The entire world seemed to take a pause, and it was just me, my husband, and a little daughter smiling at each other, looking at each other with all that happiness in mind. We all were super happy, our happiness had no limits. I always used to feel blessed to have such an amazing life partner who is more of a friend than a husband to me, and now even more blessed to have a healthy and cute little princess. I believed I could, you know, so that is why I did. So I believed in myself that I could do it, so I was able to do it. That is what I believe. I had a normal delivery with 12 hours of labor, guys. 12 hours of pain. That was all worth. It was nothing was you can say waste, because that moment made it really worth for me. All thanks to the doctor, all thanks to my husband for his support. The doctor had that confidence in me that I could do it. She was super happy and proud and kept praising me throughout my labor on how strong I was, and she's a gem of a person, really. I just love her. Finally, I learned that the power and intensity of my contractions could not be stronger than me, because they came from me. So I had that self belief, and hence it made a little easier for me to go through that particular phase. So, guys, hope you all liked my labor journey. If yes, then please like, share, subscribe on my YouTube channel. The link I will be sharing it on my Instagram bio. Also, do follow my Insta page where you could see all my podcast link and updates. You may also hear my podcast on Anchor and Spotify app. I'll be sharing all the links on the Insta page soon. So, till then, stay safe, stay happy, and keep it real. See you soon.